Have you ever started a BMS campaign and gone, man, I wish I had a Growler or Warthog available to me in the campaign when they just weren't already available? Well, in today's video, we're going to go over using Mission Commander to edit your campaign's squadrons, ground units, and objectives. And we're also going to talk a little bit about planning a custom missions around the objective set for a campaign. If you guys don't mind supporting and hitting that subscribe button, I'm trying to hit 2,000 subs by this time next year, so I appreciate all help. And leave a comment if you have any questions. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, now that we're in the BMS campaign screen, in previous videos I've gone over campaign selection, so we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to use Tiger Spirit as an example for today's video. So right here we got the 36 Fighter Squadron that we're going to fly as F-16 CM Block 40s. We're just going to click Commit. And on this screen, I advise you to turn off Set by HQ for the priorities and the fighter squadron. You can do that by clicking this button up here. Priorities will show up automatically. Press OK, close that, save your campaign. We're going to overwrite Tiger Spirit for me, and then press OK. Now that we've done this, we're going to go look at some other things, Mission Commander, and the objectives of the campaign as well. Okay, so now that we have opened Mission Commander and opened our campaign file, one thing you may see when opening Mission Commander is that the 2D map is maybe incorrect. So maybe you're opening a campaign for the Balkans or the Israeli or Hellas theater, excuse me. Then the 2D map will be a little bit wrong, and it'll maybe show these units on like a Korea map when you're in an Israeli campaign. If you do have that, just open the file and then close Mission Commander, reopen Mission Commander, and reopen the campaign file, and the 2D map in the background will update. Don't be concerned about that, or you can just work around it. It's really not a big ordeal. You can still kind of see an outline of the map just from the units. Either way, float your boat. Do whatever you want. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at editing squadrons. So we started as the 36 Fighter Squadron, which is pretty cool, but maybe we don't want to fly the Block 40 Viper. Maybe we want to fly the CM Block 50. Why not? What we're going to start with first, and this is what I recommend doing before you do any of this other stuff, is change aircraft type. And then in this drop down, you can choose your different aircraft. And we're just going to change to a CM Block 50 and then press apply. Simple as that. Now your whole squadron's changed to a different aircraft type. We can do the same for moving to air bases. Maybe we want to be closer to the front. We're at Osan, this green air base right here. But maybe we want to be at, I don't know. Let's say, Quail. Maybe we want to be at Quail Air Base. That's pretty close to the front. We'll change this drop down as well, and then press apply. And now we're moved to Quail Air Base. So now we're going to look at resupplying storage for your squadron. Right here, we have pilots in Squadron 48. Obviously, I have no way to actually kill these guys in this menu. I can only change their, like, new pilot names. So, what you would do if this says lower than 48 is you would just click Resurrect Killed Pilots and it'd give you back 48. And then for the roster here, I'm going to set these just so we can have an example. If these are yellow, it means that they have less aircraft than the max, and you can just double click them to change the supply of aircraft. And then same for these. I'll change these real quick so you can get an idea. So there is color codes for the stores as well. Red means it's completely out. Yellow means it's running like about to run out, running low, about to run out. And then white means it's kind of medium. There's some stores, but they could run out soon, especially with a bunch of flights scheduled. What you can do here is you can double click them and then manually change them, or you can click the resupply button and that will resupply your squadron. And then you can clear your schedule here, and that's pretty much all you'll really need to do. You can change your specialty if you want. This doesn't really matter. I've seen air-to-ground missions be scheduled for seed or air-to-air squadrons, and I've seen air-to-air missions be scheduled for air-to-ground squadrons. It really doesn't make a difference. There is some missions that can't be scheduled, and it'll say, like, Flight has no AG stores available if you're not an air-to-ground squadron. I think it's CAS and FAC-A that do that, and maybe Air Interdiction, but that's not a huge concern. If you do get that, you can just come in here and change it to air-to-ground. I'll even change mine to air-to-ground just for fun. And then you can change your patch here, too, if you want. Maybe you want a cooler patch or something. That's completely available to you. And then we're going to look at something else. I can't really do it on that squadron because we've already done it. But let's say we know that we want to have a couple squadrons available to us in the campaign to be able to frag with our flights. So maybe we want an F-15K that's always going to fly with us. We can come in here. I'm going to recheck that so I can show you a little bit slower. We're going to double click on the squadron, and then right here under change aircraft type, you have control, and you have a checkbox set by HQ. Uncheck that, and now we have full control of this squadron. So we have 102nd Korean Fighter Squadron available to us. HQ will not plan missions for these guys. I do want to say that if they already have flights scheduled by HQ, maybe you've already started a campaign and now you're watching this video and you want to go in and edit stuff, it will stop creating missions for them, but they will still fly the missions they've already created, and we can clear that with the air tasking order and a bunch of other ways. But if you want to let them fly those missions, which I do recommend at the end of the day, if HQ has already scheduled them to be in a flight and you just turn off set by HQ like later in the campaign, that can cause some issues with some of the other packages. And, you know, especially if they're doing escort or seed, you may get those other flights that were in those packages they were in killed. So be very careful with clearing their flight schedule. Make sure if you do clear them that you clear everybody else that was in their flights. Or else you're just going to run into a bunch of issues. So we can click apply, and then let's do the same for, I don't know, F4. We'll have an F4 squadron available to us, and we'll set them by HQ. And we do the same thing we did for our squadron. We can resupply everybody else's stores and everything else, move them, change their aircraft types. Now that we've done that, click apply change, and then we can come back to the map. And let's say there's an aircraft that isn't available to us, but we want it in our campaign for fun. Maybe we want, let's see, what don't we have here? We don't have any Harriers. Maybe, oh, well, we do. But, we don't have any EA-18Gs. These ones are inactive, by the way. If they're yellow, they're inactive. So maybe we want some EA-18Gs on the front line. So we could have Osan Air Base. You can do this with any airbase. You right-click it. Oh, whoopsie. Right-click it. Stop doing that. Okay, whatever. Right-click it. This menu will appear. Add squadron. And then here, it's kind of the same drop-down. We'll add EA-18Gs, and then you can call them whatever you want. They're going to be the 69th Fighter Squadron, because, wow, we are hilarious, aren't we? And then, oh, dude, this thing is so broken sometimes. And then you can change their patch as well. I will reiterate that Mission Commander is technically deprecated software. It still works, but it's not being actively updated, so some of this stuff is a little buggy. Like, especially if you view this 3D model, you'll get this error. Just press continue, but don't worry about it. And then you can click apply, and now it's been created. And if we go back to the same screen we were on before, the campaign tab, we can see here that we now have an available EA-18G, and then you can unchange set by squadron and click apply, and then apply change, and then that's that. We can also do the same with ground units. So let's say at our new airbase, we want to make sure that we're well protected. Where did I put us? Quail, I think. I already forgot where I put me. Quail airbase. Yep. You can right click and then add battalion instead of squadron. You can filter what type of ground units you want. Let's start with air defense, and then we'll make it a Patriot site. Why not? And we'll call them the same thing, 69th, belonging to the 69th division, and their rock units, I guess. And then their orders are air defense. Click apply. We'll do the same thing for adding like an armored unit for protecting it. So armored, and then we'll add M1A1s. Same thing, 58th, sure. And then we can change their orders to defend the airbase. And that created those. Now to view ground units, you can come to the units tab. You can search by battalions or a bunch of other stuff, task forces or naval ships. You can do all land, and then you can do all air too, so you can sort by squadrons on here as well, just so you know. And then you can sort by country up here in the top left, rock. And then I'm going to sort by no plan, because I'm looking for that one I just created. Here it is. And for air defense squadrons, you want to go ahead and go into advanced options here, and then check no plan as well, and click apply. And then there's no apply change on this screen, and you can click save. So now that we've edited our campaign to how we want, and we've successfully added units and everything else like that, one other thing I want to show you, I guess, as well, is you can change the owner of an area. So let's say Sunnon International Airport. We can do first owner, keep that as DPRK, and then you can change it to a current owner. Republic of Korea, sure, and click apply, and it will change it. So you can do that as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that a second ago. I'm going to put this back to DPRK so I don't break everything in case they have units scheduled there, but that's a way to capture stuff as well if your ground units are bugging out. And then we'll click save again. And then let's go back into our campaign screen now that we've made some changes. All right, before I throw us into the 2D campaign map and show you a little bit about mission planning, I want to show you guys some of our objectives so we can base our mission planning based off of that. And then we'll go over kind of my ideas of how I plan missions for a campaign. So we're in the BMS user manual, which I'll leave a little thing at the bottom so you guys can find this document. And we're going to look at the Tiger Spirit campaign because that's the one that we're running. So if we look here at the very top, ROC/US wins if Kalma and Pyongyang, Oncheng-ni, Hamju, Hucheon, Kaechong, and Taehung are controlled in less than 5 campaign days, or if the ROC/US wins if Kalma and Pyongyang are controlled in less than 5 campaign days, and DPRK strength is less than 1/10 of the Allied forces. So we kind of have two options here. We can either control all these cities at the top, which may be a little bit tougher, especially with ground unit AI. Sometimes they're a little weird, especially with the 2D map movements and stuff, whatever. We'll go into that later. Or we can control just 2 cities, and we get the DPRK forces down to 1/10 of our ratio. That's a little bit easier. I will say getting them down to 1/10 is actually a lot easier because that's really controlled by you. I mean, it really depends on if you can shoot down aircraft well and if you can strike ground targets well. And then the DPRK wins if they control Kalma and Pyongyang and they maintain a 1-to-1 force ratio. And then if none of these conditions are met for either team, it becomes a stalemate after 5 days. So overall, this is a pretty easy campaign objective-wise. Some of them are a little bit weirder. Some of them are like, get the supply down to 20% within like 30 days or whatever. So you have to strike a bunch of fuel depots and factories, and some of them are other things. Some of them are supply lines and air power and objectives and a bunch of other stuff. So just be warned, all the Korean ones are in the BMS user manual. Other campaigns have theirs listed in their documentation as well. I at least know the Balkans and Hellas does. Israel's one is a little bit harder to find, but it is in there. But we're going to look at Tiger Spirit for today. So we've looked at this. We now know what we need to do. So let's go into our 2D map here. And we need to control Pyongyang, which is good because we already control it here. It's this yellow area right here with all these blue icons. That's Pyongyang. If we look a little bit closer, you can see we have Pyongyang Elite Airstrip under our control. And then we need to control Kalma Airport over here to the east. And kind of this whole area in general. And we're pretty close. We're pretty close to it, I'll say. We could do a little bit of work. There's an SA2 there. Is there an SA5 or 2? SA5, excuse me. So we need to take care of that, which is easy. That's a simple seed and deed flight. No big deal. But we do need to get this ground captured. So if we want to deal with ground units capturing an airbase, what we can do is we can click on one of them with just a left click. You'll see this little like white circle appear around them. Sometimes it's in different areas, like theirs is there. Theirs is there. But we're going to do this tank battalion. You'll just drag this circle it creates up to where you want. And then what we want to do is we want to right click the unit, click status, and we can see here it turned off set by HQ, and their objective is to capture. And then you can also see there's other ones here. So if you want them to defend a point, you would move the waypoint, set it to defend, so forth. And we can see their status here. We see they're at 100% strength with this red line. They have regular experience, morale is high, fatigue is normal, and they're in a wedge formation. And their ETA, that's not actually technically right, but that's okay. And we can see their orders, capture Kalma Airport. So, pretty simple, actually. Other than that, though, when it comes to mission planning for me, and this is just my advice, and this is going to be a pretty quick segment because this doesn't really get too in-depth, honestly. First day of the campaigns, I like to strike all the air bases. For example, we need to defend Pyongyang. Suncheon Air Base, right here where my mouse is at, houses a MiG-23 squadron. I would want to take that out first, and we can plan a mission for that. And then I'd want to take out Kwaksan, because it houses another MiG-23 base. And then there's other MiG-21 squadrons, kind of just based in all these other various installations around the map. But when it comes to striking that air base, it's not that simple. We can see here, we have an SA-2 here, we have an SA-2 here, probably more ground units that we can't see in the middle. And then we also have other kinds of installations around here. So we got EW sites, early warning sites. We got SAMs up to the north, SA2s, 3s, probably a 5 somewhere, I imagine. Maybe not. There is at least a 5 to the east that we need to worry about. And then there's these airstrips that also have aircraft. So, you know, flying SAMs, literally. So when it comes to mission planning, what I would do first is I would most likely schedule a flight for this SA2. And since I know that I manually turned off control for some flights, we're going to set everybody to hit at kind of the same time. So I know for the F-15Ks, the 102nd Squadron is one that I set. And we're going to set them, actually, we need an EA-18G Growler first. We're going to set them to seed with a 2 flight. They're going to target that place. And then F-15s are going to do deed. And then they're going to hit at 230. So 230, that's not bad. We'd probably want to strike our target about roughly 3 to 5 minutes after, so the SAM site stays offline. So let's say we want to target Sunshine Air Base. We'll right-click it. We'll change our time on target. You cannot change the takeoff time, by the way, just a heads up. So we'll say we're going to strike it at 2:33 to be safe. We're going to go in here, choose our squadron, and then we're the 36, so that looks good. We're going to change it to 4 aircraft, and then we're going to have an escort flight of maybe F-18Cs. Sure, why not? Oh, I don't even have enough for them. Too bad. What else we got? Can I just get any kind of escort? That works, sure. That bugged out a little bit, I know, but I'm not going to worry about fixing it right this second. And then, so we see here Sunshine Air Base. Let's see here. So they've got a pretty long runway, so when it comes to mission planning, I would probably want to carry, like, AP bombs. This is a pretty dense runway, so we can do that. We can come down here. We'll make sure that we have the right loadout. 31 APs. Looks perfect. That's a beautiful loadout. And then with us doing an airbase strike, I like to switch our loadouts to A120Cs just in case we get into a cap fight. And that looks good. We can also schedule other flights to hit things around us to take out, you know, maybe this SA2, these factories at the same time if you want. That's pretty basic. And then what I also like to do sometimes is have a cap flight in the area that's just going to operate with us. And more of a sweep flight than a cap flight, but same thing. There we go. And they'll do a sweep of that area at the same time as us to protect us from any enemy air in the area. Now, when I'm in my flight, let's go back here so I can see my waypoints. We can see waypoint 7 is the target, and then waypoint 6 is down here near Pyongyang. And since we have SA2s, we want to be a little bit cautious of staying high. And we might want to use terrain masking. So we can see we have some hills here. We got some cities in between. So we have some good options for some terrain cover in general from the radars. What we can do here, and actually I'll redo that, is we can click this flight plan button. And then we can go to steer point 6. And we can change our altitude here so that you're actually going to be flying at 6,500. And same for over the target area. This will affect how your AI, how high they are when they hit the target too. So this is kind of useful. And you can change your calibrated speeds down here. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm not that in-depth with it. And then our escort flight is completely not in our package because it bugged out for a second, which is something you'll run into with BMS every now and then. But we know they're going to be there at the same time as us, so it's fine. And that's how you can change that for your flight. In regards when it comes to mission planning, it's really just kind of hitting whatever you want. I'm a big believer in have fun. If you want to fly BMS to have fun, don't always worry about the objectives. If you have squadrons that are set by HQ, more than 5 squadrons that are set by HQ, they'll hit the objectives that you don't hit. It'll start planning for them without you. And that's not a huge concern. If you want to go hit and do some CAS, and you see some ground units around here, maybe we see a tank battalion pop up somewhere or something, feel free to plan a CAS mission. Enjoy your campaign how you want to enjoy it. And I think that's an issue a lot of people run into with this game is they think that they should stick to the rules and they should be super serious. I believe there's a good middle ground in BMS where you can treat it like other military flight simulators. You can have fun. Have fun with your campaign. If you lose, who cares? It's a single player campaign. I mean, if you're playing multiplayer with other people and somebody else is hosting the campaign, don't go doing cast missions when you should be doing other stuff. But if it's just your campaign, have fun at the end of the day. In regards to mission planning, it's not a huge concern. You can also schedule other AI flights to be in the area. So let's say we wanted like an AWACS. I'm not going to schedule one actually because it's not going to let me. But you can schedule an AWACS to be in the area, and you can give them half cap and stuff. Yeah, it's not going to find a path because it's so far up. But you can do stuff like that as well. Overall, the to-do campaign map is pretty easy to deal with, and I've gone over guides for it and other beginner's guides, so I'm not going to focus too much on that. A lot of my thinking is just have fun, what makes good videos, and sometimes following the objectives in a campaign. Sometimes. If you enjoyed this video, I will have some more actual campaign footage of in the cockpit coming out. Just not right now. I haven't edited everything, so if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments, all that jazz. Hopefully this could help you a little bit with Mission Commander and scheduling flights, and you should be good to go.